Hey guys, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my channel. So today we are officially starting the new Can Kraft Be Pretty Make a Journal with Me series. Shout out to Rural Retro on Instagram for suggesting this theme. I saw it. I had ideas about what I wanted to do before, but I always like to hear what you guys have as a suggestion for me. And when I saw her suggestion, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to put everything else on the back burner because this is like the best idea ever. So be sure and check her out on Instagram if you aren't already following her. She makes gorgeous like craft inspiration kits, but I wanted to take her idea and kind of put my own spin on it, and with that I give you antique craft. My thinking is, I've got ink on my hand, my thinking is craft, like the color craft, like the brown, exists in so many antique papers and ephemera pieces, and like it just is what I think of when I think of like vintage. So I wanted to kind of take the modern kind of craft paper, things that you can readily find at any craft store, and combine them with like that vintage paper, vintage photos, vintage textiles, and just grunge it up a bit and kind of use some mixed media techniques and make something really, really pretty, hopefully. So this is kind of experimental. I like, obviously I've never really done this. My style lends itself toward like the romantic, really floral, like French inspired journal making. So this is more like, I don't know, vintage grunge, if you will. So yeah, anyway, so with that, I wanted to show you guys kind of a sampling of the supplies that I've chosen to use. My goal is to create at least 3 journals, and so I've just picked out just a handful of things to show you guys. I obviously have quite a bit more in my stash that I'm planning to use for the journals, but this is kind of like to give you a general idea of what supplies you can pick from your own stash to use. Obviously you want to pull anything that's craft paper, like that could be a paper bag, it could be just a sheet of craft paper, it could be tag blanks, envelopes, anything like that. So go ahead and pull that out, and then just I'll show you what I've got here in my stack, and that way you can kind of decide what you have that kind of fits in that category. So I had this piano roll paper, and obviously the roll is empty now, but I had the end of it, and I remembered in the journal that Heather sent me, it had this really great like flap that she made out of the end of a piano roll. And so I want to try to do something with this because I was so inspired by using that. I've always thought, oh man, that's so pretty, I don't know what to do with it. So this is the journal that I'm gonna try all the things and do the experiments and kind of see what I come up with. Yeah, so I'm gonna set that aside because I would hate for it to get squished. So here's an example of like just a craft tag that got coffee stained, and I think I got this from Sarah Grab. So I pulled out things like this that like have kind of been sitting in my stash, and I just like, it didn't really fit with my really romantic like clean stuff. So I'm gonna use that stuff in this. I've got a ton of different types of book pages, and I know you guys probably are like me and just have like stacks and stacks of book pages, and I think that this is the perfect project to use them on. I've got some vintage prescription slips. I've got one of these vintage postmarked, or what is the word? Postage paid postcards. Got some Kraft tags. These are kind of shimmery, which I like. I feel like it'll kind of add back to like helping me keep true to my roots of like the romantic type journals. I've got some little tickets, stamps, this card, which is not Kraft, but I was thinking to coffee stain it. And if you guys watched my tutorial a few days ago, I shared how to coffee stain linens in a super small space, like this big. And yeah, so, and super fast, like there's no soaking involved or anything. So anyway, I was gonna do the same technique on that. So I was thinking to add little pops of red, like, because when I think about Kraft, I think about this envelope. Like, this is kind of what was one of my main inspirations for this journal collection. And it has this really big red label, and this is a McCourt roll label. But I've had this envelope in my stash for quite some time. Lisa sent it to me probably in 2019. I don't know. I've been hoarding it, truth be told. But I thought this was the perfect project to let this inspire me, and so I'm finally going to use it. But I do have a word about this in a few minutes after I get done showing you guys what I've got. Okay, so the other thing about this journal, so last journal that I made in a series with you guys was kind of a design team project for Lisa of Crafty Lisa's Vintage. And so this one, I'm using a ton of my like vintage French ephemera that I've gotten from Shariqa at Postal Love. So she sends me a design team pack every month that is the same as her La Magnifique tier on Patreon. Sorry, I'm still on my first cup of coffee this morning, so the brain is not totally working 100% yet. But so she sends me things like this label and this gorgeous tag, you guys. I've got a few of these, and each journal is going to get its own version of this. These little Spanish chocolatier receipts, just things like this, that and then this postcard. So yeah, she sends you like an inspiration pack every month as part of her Patreon rewards. She kind of has it set up as like a subscription box, and there's different price tiers. The one that she sends me is the highest tier, and then there's 2 steps below that, last I checked. So I've linked her Patreon below in the description box of the video if you want to go check it out. I know a lot of you guys have subscribed to that, and so I want to thank you. Shariqa is a wonderful person, and yeah, she is probably one of my besties on Instagram, so I love seeing her supported too. Okay, so then some vintage photos. I just have a few. I was thinking this journal series is kind of taking place around the US Mother's Day. So I picked out some vintage pictures of children and moms, and yeah. Okay, so yeah, more tags, more envelopes, this card. This is the point where I kind of want to talk about the digital kit that I made to go along with this. So I've heard 2 things. Number one, I have a bunch of stuff that I like have no inspiration to use, and the other thing that I've heard from followers or subscribers is that I don't have those things because I don't have the space, or I can't afford it, or insert other reason here. So what I've done is I've taken a sampling of the things that I've got here on my desk, and I've kind of made a digital kit to go along with this Make a Journal With Me series. So I'm going to show you exactly what's in the kit from my original pieces that I have used to make the kit. And the kit is also linked below in the description box. I'm going to set this aside because my desk is really crowded. Okay, so this is in the kit. This card is in the kit. And I did try to keep the colors and the patina as close to the original state as possible. I love this image. This is from like an old travel guide that I had. This is like corrugate from cardboard. Oh, also keep an eye out in your stash for books that have like really great vintage tape. I think that's gonna look really good in our journal. Let me set this stuff aside too. Okay, this envelope made it into the kit. It is open like this. I scanned just the front like that, and then I cleaned up the label a bit, and yeah, and so it's in the kit kind of just like this. It's not open, or I didn't open the envelope up to scan the whole thing. This little flinch card and this calling card here. This image, which is from like a Peterson's or Godey's magazine, I'm not sure which, but it's this side with her kind of facing forward. This French check. These trade and calling cards made it in. Even if you're not gonna make this journal with me, this is a really great kind of neutral kit that's like fantastic, I think, for like collage fodder, or yeah, just to use in other journal making or journaling. This card, and I did this side of it, this album page with the little scrap piece on it, and I did add both sides of this album page. This one's got a really great set of nature landscape photos, and then this one has pictures of like a sculpture and some people, so it's got a selection of both, or a statue, I guess. And then this vintage book page, this telegram, a receipt, another receipt, a little ledger page. Anything that's smaller than a standard letter size, I did enlarge to be a letter size. Some wallpaper. This label, which I had to shrink down a bit, and I trimmed it in to be less wide. This, which is one of my favorite pieces from my stash. Brianna sent that to me in my Happy Mail that I got from her a while back. Obviously I had to shrink this one down. This is like the best paper ever. But yeah, I shrunk it down and like kept in some of this water staining here, and yeah, so this is a fantastic piece, I think. That, also from a Peterson's magazine. This image from a book. Another ledger sheet. Another ledger sheet. This one is very old. And that's it. So it's a pretty robust kit. It's very varied, and has quite a selection for you to use in your journal making. So yeah, definitely check that out. I've put it on sale at 25% off until next Saturday. So if you want to snag it to use in this journal making series, definitely go grab it right now before it goes off sale. yeah, and then I've got some more labels and things like that. Coffee stained envelopes, more book pages, some handmade paper. I've linked Heather's shop again. I love her paper. Some paper bags and French document. Anyway, so you get the picture. Lots and lots of vintage papers and ephemera pieces. And yeah, so these are the textiles that I kind of chose. Like I said a few days ago, I did post a tutorial on how I do my coffee staining in a very small space. And these were the results of that. So I think they turned out really great. They're kind of grungy, but then they still have like the really clean linen areas. Like this side is really clean. So yeah, I'm gonna use quite a bit of stuff like this in my making. So if you want to check that video out, I've linked it below and you can go and watch it and do your own coffee staining. It's very, very easy to do. And then I've got a few cleaner pieces of linen and lace that I can use. And so yeah, I'm planning to make two kind of textile-ish covers and then one that's an envelope pocket. And of course I did not show you guys the envelopes, but I have these two brown like 6x9 Kraft envelopes that are vintage, and I did have a whole box of them, and now I'm kind of kicking myself for not keeping more of them for myself, but I had two left, and so we're gonna make with them the cover for one of the journals. So my thought is to like really grunge it up, add some stenciling texture, and then kind of layer on textiles and that cabinet card that I didn't really spend much time showing you guys. So yeah, there will be a physical kit that kind of comes along with this release of the video, depending on what time. Hopefully this video uploads pretty quickly. I'm having an Instagram sale later today at 11, and yeah, I'll have 5 kits, just 5, and they were kind of centered around this kind of upholstery fabric here, because it's so soft and is perfectly the thing I think about like textile wise of like Kraft, like the Kraft color, and it's like soft but also kind of grungy. And yeah, so I centered the kits around that. I only had just a pretty small piece of it, so I cut it up into 6 equal parts. I kept one for myself, and then there are 5 more and kits to go along with them. So we're gonna start with the blank envelopes and just do some stenciling. So I've chosen this Tim Holtz rose pattern stencil, and I am just using some texture paste that's from Ranger, and a little spatula, so it's a mixed media spatula, and I'm just going to stencil around the outside edges, kind of leaving the spine blank, because in my mind I am not I'm not gonna like working around the roses in the spine of the journal. So I'm just gonna go around the envelopes and add in some roses. It's super important to kind of scrape off the excess of the texture paste once you stencil it on. So I stencil it on pretty thick, and then I just scrape off the excess. And that way it's kind of flat-ish, like still raised but flat. So my idea for this journal, and you guys are watching it from start to finish, so I've never really made one of these before, so you're kind of watching my experiment live, if you will, is to make a pocket journal from 2 large envelopes, which is kind of inspired by Susie of Paper Harbor Co. We did a swap last year or in 2019, I can't remember when, but she sent me this envelope journal, and it was using 2 envelopes as the covers. It was really blank inside. It was unembellished and just a really great journal, but I thought I would take it a step further and actually do actually embellish the inside as well. So yeah, the next step that I chose to do is to spray the covers with Distress Oxide spray and mica spray. So I did the Distress mica spray in tarnished brass and Distress Oxide in vintage photo. And I'm just smearing it around with a baby wipe, but that didn't really have the effect that I was hoping it would. I think something about the coating that's on these envelopes is preventing it from actually moving the oxide spray as much as I like. So the next step, sorry, my chicks are being super loud. The next step that I'm going to do is actually to coffee stain the envelopes, and I did one, as you can see, off camera, just kind of experimenting and seeing if I like the effect. So yeah, I am just using a brush, much like I did with my linen staining video that I posted a few days ago, and I'm just brushing the coffee around the envelope. I did decide to make the front cover lighter than I did the back, so the back is on the left and the front cover is on the right in this shot here. So I'm kind of leaving the middle of the envelope kind of blank. And yeah, I'm just kind of like smearing the coffee around with a brush, and yeah, I do use my fingers a little bit here and there. And I just use the envelope to kind of mop up the coffee that gets on my desk. I never really use a splat box or like a piece of paper under my project, because this desk is like old and beat up and kind of marked up already. So I don't really worry too much about getting my desk dirty. If you have a nice desk, please protect it. If you're doing this, it is, yeah, it's kind of messy, and it does leave stains on your surface if you leave the coffee to sit for any length of time. So I'm also staining the inside, what will be the inside of the journal cover. Yeah, see, I'm mopping it up with my envelope there. Yeah, so I'm staining the inside of the envelope and kind of leaving the center of the envelopes kind of blank, or lighter. These were already kind of a brown envelope to start, so if you're starting with a white envelope and want it to be brown, just coffee stain the whole thing, and there you go. So now I'm using the coffee stain linen to wipe it out. Yeah, sometimes like watching myself work, it cracks me up. Like just the things I do are just so funny sometimes. So yeah, now I'm just kind of looking at them and seeing if I'm happy with the results and ready to move on to the next step. So without really waiting for the covers to dry completely, I am just going to like start adding the spine to the journal. And I'm not really sure at this point what I want to do, but I do know that I want to have 2 signatures. And so I'm playing around with like how to add extra space to the spine and also have like a pretty sturdy spine. And I do end up using this vintage doily that I had coffee stained the other day in my video. And so yeah, I'm just like figuring out how I want that to lay and work out on the spine. And yeah, so I think at this point I had decided that I was going to like kind of pleat it in the middle, like fold it in half and kind of tuck the fold inside and let the ends of the doily lay on the covers of the journal to kind of bind it. So now I am just kind of playing around with pieces that I think I might want to use on the cover. And I do end up using that cabinet photo that's kind of like cut up and was originally part of an album, I think. So the original owner had cut it down to fit in an album page. And but I'm gonna use it as is. I like it the way it is, and I feel like it fits really well with this journal theme, as it's kind of distressed and like really vintage and yeah, distressed and grungy. So I did decide at this point that I'm gonna go ahead and commit to having the fold permanently in the doily piece, to kind of create a separated spine that's also pretty strong. So I am just running this doily through my sewing machine, and hopefully this will make more sense once I actually mount it to the cover, and I'll show you guys the inside of the journal. So closing up the flaps on the covers so that I can I kind of see how the layout will be with like how the how the covers will look when they're actually closed up. So I'm gonna go ahead and commit to attaching the spine, quote unquote, of the journal with some glue. And that way I can kind of work around it still. I'm not gluing it down totally. I'm just running a line of glue down each side of the journal. And yeah, so then I will actually start to work on layout of the rest of the journal around that. At this point, I'm really pleased with how the spine worked out. So you can see there's like a separator between the two signatures. And it will be open spine, so I'm just gonna like kind of simply bind it with some sari silk ribbon. Oh, here's where Lennon was sticking band-aids on me. He's been so interested in like helping people and being quote unquote Dr. Lennon. So his idea of being a doctor is like you give people band-aids at this point, and that is so cute. And like I want to encourage him to follow his dreams, and so yeah, we've all been really good sports about like letting him stick band-aids all over us. But yeah, he went with me to the vet yesterday. We had to take Saya. I'm recording this video on Friday, or doing the voiceover on Friday. We took Saya to the vet yesterday, and he wanted to go so badly. Like, he was gonna like have a meltdown if I did not take him with us to the vet. And yeah, he had so much fun, even though it was like a really hard visit. For me, I mean, he doesn't understand, and I don't want him to. Yeah, so he really enjoyed the visit at the vet and seeing them take care of our doggy. So yeah, now I'm just kind of playing with layout and deciding where I want things to go on the cover of my journal. Again, this is kind of experimental. I have decided at this point that the cabinet photo is going to be like a pocket on the front cover. So it's going to have a pocket in that it is an envelope, and also I'm getting doctored at this point. It is an envelope pocket, and also the cabinet photo will be like kind of a smaller tag size pocket, I guess. And so yeah, I'm just cutting off little pieces of linen and like kind of making a little textile collage in the bottom right corner of the cabinet photo. And I'll kind of glue it down and then run the whole thing through my sewing machine for like a faux stitch. I'm not actually going to stitch it to the cover because I don't want to close up the inside of my envelope. So yeah, I'm just going to run a faux stitch around the lady, and yeah, that way it'll look like it's stitched, but it's not actually, because we can't close up the inside of the envelope. I always get insecure when I'm doing a new style of journal. So this is very much a new style journal for me, and it makes me feel really unsure of how I'm doing. And I mean, it is good for me to record my process, because if I did not record, if I did not make the video, it would, like, I would end up kind of overanalyzing everything and just taking a really long time to make everything. So it's good to turn on the camera and kind of show you guys my fumbling around a bit. And yeah, so I am starting to commit at this point and glue some things down, and that's actually really good. So yeah, if you ever feel stuck, I don't know, it may not help everyone, but if you ever feel stuck or like you're overanalyzing things, pretend like you're making a video. It really helps. It really helps me feel like, oh gosh, I can't make my video too long, so I'm gonna, just hurry up and commit to something. So while I'm watching myself glue things down, I am wishing that I had used like a little bit larger pieces of, like this ledger piece, for example. I feel like it's really pretty, and it kind of adds like a lighter area to the view of the journal. But yeah, I did not want to cover up my stenciling more than it was already going to be covered with the photo of the lady. So I did the stenciling in the background, and then it kind of constrained what I was able to do with like my collaging on the cover. So yeah, my thread came out on my sewing machine, which is like a very common thing. I can like load the thread in my machine super fast now because it happens all the time. So yeah, I am just doing a stitch around the lady, and since it's a cabinet photo, my machine is kind of struggling a bit, but it was able to go through all the layers with no problems. I just took it kind of slow. So yeah, now I've decided I want to do something in the top left corner of the journal, and so I'm just adding like a little lace textile collage, and I like stitching the pieces together so that they're gonna stay the way I want them to be. And yeah, then I will, I think, stitch them to the photo too, because I haven't glued anything down as far as the photo yet. I do want to like add something over the top of this little textile collage that I've made in the top left corner. So I've kept it pretty flat. There are several layers, but they are fairly flat, and I want to add this key eventually, so I'm just gonna like add a few stitches. I do it off camera. Add a few stitches to hold that on with that little textile collage in the corner. And now I'm deciding which label I want to use for the cover, and I had originally played around with that blue label, but then I remembered that my pop of color was going to be the red. And so I'm just adding a Denison label, and I'm playing around with these gold stars that I eventually decide not to use. So yeah, I thought that they were just a little bit too, although they are vintage, they don't really fit with the theme. Like, I feel like this is more shabby chic than, like, I don't know what you would consider the Denison stars. Like, I don't know. But I just feel like they didn't fit with the theme exactly. So I opted out of the stars eventually. But they did just kind of sit there for a minute while I auditioned them in my mind. So yeah, now I'm just kind of doing some stamping around with some black ink, and I'm stamping most of the ink off onto this little scrap piece before actually stamping the envelope, so that it's not a perfect impression, and it just ends up being kind of like some added texture to the journal. And then I'm going in with some white gesso, and yeah, just adding a tiny bit to add some depth to, or like bring up, like some of the areas just ended up being really dark, and I wanted to add some accent to the roses that I had embossed and just kind of like blend things together. I feel like gesso kind of does that, like you have hard edges on different papers that you've used or different textiles, and they just don't really mesh very well. You can always add some white gesso to kind of make everything mesh a little bit better. Another option for doing that, like I wanted to lighten mine up a bit at this point, but another option for kind of bringing everything together is to use like distress ink or distress oxide, or like spray or coffee stain. So yeah, I always kind of do that near the end of my process. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this so far. Again, it is a little bit different than my usual style of projects, but I just wanted to try something new and kind of get outside my comfort zone. I think that's good to do every once in a while, and thought you guys might like to join me in doing that. So yeah, I will be posting videos hopefully every Wednesday and Saturday again, like I did with the last Make a Journal With Me series. I have been going to the chiropractor, and in doing that, I am supposed to be limiting the amount of time that I sit and work at my desk, which is hard because this is like how I make my money to like support my son and I. So yeah, it's been difficult to like kind of find that new balance of like how much do I work, how much do I rest, and like give my neck a rest. So yeah, I hope to post every Wednesday and Saturday, but I don't know if that schedule is really going to be wise or not. So yeah, at this point I have decided that I want to stamp the word hope on this journal. So I'm just like picking out the letters for the stamping, and I don't know why I thought that the letters were as large as the stamp, and I thought, oh no, it's not going to fit. And then I realized that the actual stamp image is smaller than the stamp itself. So yeah, I'm just stamping the word hope onto this little label before I glue it down. I'm just working out the layout on the last few pieces of the cover before I commit to gluing them. I was noticing that the textiles were kind of covering up the little tail of the E, so it was looking like the word Hopf, or like HOPF. And but I decided it's okay. You can still see it. It's fine. So I just committed and glued it down. And now I'm re-auditioning the stars and decided, nope, that's not a good idea. So yeah, now I'm gonna glue the lady pocket down and like really commit to adding her as a pocket on the front cover. So I'm going to finish kind of gluing everything down, and yeah, that includes like the little center spine doily that we used. And so yeah, I'm just like generously adding my 3-in-1 glue. And at this point I did kind of decide that I wanted to maybe stitch along the edge of the spine, which doesn't really hinder the pocket factor of the envelope, but it does add like a lot more security to the spine. So I am just going to run a stitch down each side of the spine and yeah, call it good after that. But I don't want to obviously stitch too far into the journal, so I don't run a stitch around the perimeter of the circle. In hindsight, I probably, if I were to go back and like start over, Lennon is awake now. If I were to start over on this journal, I would stitch my my doily to the pocket as well, so like the cabinet photo pocket. So now I'm just going to show you guys kind of how the inside will look. So the front covers both have the doily stitched to them, and then there's the center fold piece that just kind of is a flap in the middle of the journal. And that will kind of add like a little bit of separation between the two signatures in the journal. So I'm just going to glue this piece onto the back cover under the flap. I may not do very much to the back cover. I haven't really decided yet at this point. So yeah, I'm just going to add that piece and kind of call it good for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed this process. It is a little bit different, actually a lot different from my normal journal covers, and so I hope you guys have enjoyed it regardless of that fact. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit the little notification bell so you know when I post the next one. Until then, have a great rest of your weekend and have so much fun crafting.